Listening on MTV, TR Communications, Style Radio in Carriacou, Mikey Hutchison Live. Good morning to you all. Chris, morning. It's Monday morning. Well, I'll let you go ahead with describing that weekend, but it's rain.
Yes, good morning, Byron, and good morning to our listeners and viewers across all the various platforms. Pleasure to be here again on another program of Perspectives. And yes, we had a weekend of a lot of rain.
Yeah.
And I suppose those of us who in farming will say probably a little too much, or it was good. Those of us in Nawasa will be saying, thank God, that's revenue, and so on. But it was a pretty wet weekend. But, this weekend my minds were with our friends and colleagues in Trinidad, watching how that situation developed there with the COVID-19, the fact that they had to go into more stricter lockdown measures had to be instituted. And I feel it for them. I mean, I have many business colleagues down there, and there's a lot of frustration knowing that, where they are in terms of the positive cases. They're up to 3,000-4,000 positive cases, and every day the numbers are in the few hundreds. So, it's not nice, and the Prime Minister seemed to believe that they have to get a lot more severe with the way in which their behaviors, people down there are not paying attention and so on. So, from a business perspective, you hear a lot of the businessmen complaining that this lockdown is going to really put them in a dire situation. So it's not a nice situation in Trinidad.
But I want to go back to the weather first, Chris. And we come back to vaccines and COVID in Trinidad in particular. But we expect the rain season in June. Yeah, this is May. It means that a lot of farmers are not yet completed their land preparation. You need a sort of a hardy soil to do your forking and preparation.
Can't do that.
And so with this rain, I mean, it's kind of, I get a sense that it is the timeliness of it. Yeah, we welcome it. I mean, everybody welcome it, but it's a bit of a problem because you're not yet ready, and the rain is here. So it means that what kind of makeshift measures? How do you get on board? How do you catch up? And the other point is that is it really the start of the rain season? From now on, you can go back, because speaking to colleagues in Carriacou, I'm on my way there today. They've had some rain, but light showers, it was described. In other words, the land's not soaked like us. We have floods, we have some slides, it's a lot of water.
Yeah, the rain seemed to be more southern than northern, and I've heard people in Carriacou say comment the same thing. Mm-hmm. But as you say, what is our losses? They're going to get more time to prepare for when the rain really starts. It starts from May. Yeah, we have an unusually wet May. The older folks that have tell you once the yellow pui tree start to blossom, here comes the rain. And we've seen a lot of the yellow pui out now and so on. So it works for one look. And I mean, some of us in the farming community, those of us who are early in preparation would welcome it more so than those who are late. So I suppose it goes both ways in that sense. But you're right, May has been traditionally drier than what we're getting now. And I think generally, Byron, the comment here too is that the seasons have changed with so many different things going on in the environment that, what you could have predicted before with the moon and all of that and how rain will come and so on, kind of changes
You
up
can't.
things. And those of us who had to prune kind of had to put it back, and so it's a lot of differences now. Farmers really had to become very nimble and start preparing earlier than normal, so that when things change like we have now, they're ready to some extent. So.
And I would see too that because of all the not just noise, but comments relative to the question of food security. And I think a lot of people now, more than traditional, are going to do some backyard gardening, going to do some planting themselves. But I think there's a bigger issue of food security or food insecurity. And the UN reported that there is a global increase in food insecurity. And it's crucial. I think the topic only comes up here when there's a crisis and we find out all the food chains have been broken and we are vulnerable. So I know the Minister of Agriculture has been given some attention to the issue, but it's critical, you know. And when we talk food security, we're talking about a number of things. We're talking about reliable access in sufficient quantity at affordable prices and nutritional. So a number of factors in the policy has to go into it. It's not just having a lot of food, because you could have that and nobody could buy it, or so there's a lot of issues. And I think when that policy, when it's renewed, when it's developed, all those factors must be taken into consideration to ensure that we are better prepared and able not only for ourselves, but sometimes to help a neighbor, like St. Vincent did in a situation.
I probably want to add another thing to what you listed there, and add production planning as one.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest challenge we face in agriculture is labor.
Yeah.
And getting people to work work 3, 4, 5 hours a day. And that is a major issue in
and you say 3, yeah?
Yeah, because some of them will come at 6 or 7, and by 10 they're finished, and they want a full day's pay, and you have that challenge. Most of the farmers, even to reap, cocoa farmers will tell you the same thing. And it is a difficult prospect for us in terms of labor, farm labor, and how we work that around. And I think the minister will be challenged, because there have been a lot of conversations about using, the roadside cleaners to help to support, give farmers support in the labor issue. But it is a challenge for us, those of us who are in agriculture and want to make it a business. That is one of your major constraints, and it becomes a real issue. And of course, I agree with all the other stuff that you listed, and production planning is another one. We have markets now, yes, because of the situation in St. Vincent, one man loss is another man gain. So Grenadian farmers have the opportunity now to supply not only St. Vincent, Trinidad. I remember St. Vincent used to supply a lot of stuff to Trinidad as well.
That's right.
So the Trinidadian companies are now asking for us to come up, have contracts for farmers to supply, whether it's dasheen, sweet potatoes, all of those things. And I think there is an opportunity for us to, even things like, watermelons and so on. I mean, there's so much, I think, there now that farmers could start planning, because most of these root crops and other crops will take probably 3 to 6 months, as you know.
Yeah, 6 months.
And so I think there's an opportunity now for us to plan and get going with some of these things, so that where we have lost, in the pandemic to the hotels, the hotel sector, and to some degree the supermarkets and so on, because consumption is not there.
School of SGU.
Here now is an opportunity to export, and probably you could get better pricing based on what you're exporting. So I think now, I think the minister now has a challenge of organizing and say, like you say, how do we get consistency of supply, quality issue, and we have agencies like the marketing board who could assist with that as well, being HACCP certified, how they could help farmers to get their stuff better prepared for shipment.
And we have the Grenada Bureau of Standards,
That's right.
and the Produce Chemist Lab, and they both do excellent work.
So I think the minister really has an opportunity here now to combine all. And there have always been this thing about agriculture not being given the kind of attention it needs. That was the time.
Here's the opportunity. Chris, you were talking about the pandemic, and you raised particularly the situation in Trinidad and Tobago, which is dire, and other places around the world, in terms of not just India, but other countries in Asia and in South America also, Latin America. So the pandemic is real, and it's alive, and it's killing people, and a lot of people are getting sick. In our own situation, I heard I think it's the director of health, what's his name, making the point that, look, we have the perfect storm in Grenada, or there's potentially a perfect storm. That one, we have high hesitancy in terms of not a lot of persons going forward for the vaccine. Maybe its hesitancy rate is probably, I think it's about 12%.
Probably just a little over 20,000.
20,000.
We have to get to 68.
So it's high. We have that situation. So immunity level is low. We have our borders are opening up, so it's porous. We have a lax approach to the protocols in terms of gatherings, and you go through the city or in other places. There is no pandemic when you look at the behavior of persons. So given all those factors, perfect storm, it can happen anytime. But I noticed also that over the weekend there was a story on social media that one business was shuttered by the government for not adhering to the protocol and the standards. But how do you see, where do we stand right now? How do we, as the economy begins to open up and prepare and to return to quote unquote normalcy, what are the risks for us? What are the challenges from a business perspective also?
Well, I mean, listening to the reports over the weekend, my greatest concern was when I heard, I think it was the acting CMO, speak about the aspect of vaccinations from frontline staff who was showing a lot of resistance to being vaccinated. We're talking here about nurses and other people in those related fields. And there was even a report where he had indicated that people were even hesitant to take a test to find out their status on the front line, these frontline persons. And you get the sense that, you know, what really is the concern. And because we have two things with us with vaccines. One, you don't take it, you're going to expire. We're going to lose some of them. The second one is we're against a race with the variants. So the faster we get to a level of close to herd immunity, the less possibility of variants coming and decimating what we have so successfully done in the last few months. So I mean, there is those things to consider as well. And from a business perspective, we have in the business community a relatively high hesitancy rates. You hear business people telling us that you know, staff may have been vaccinated, and people don't want to say they have been vaccinated or not. It's like they're treating it as confidential medical information. So there's a lot of strange things out there. And as a business person, the more of your staff, I believe, that becomes vaccinated, the easier it becomes for you to operate and to deploy them based on where you are in business and what business you do. So there is a lot of work we have to do on the various programs about what is the hesitancy, what is causing the hesitancy, what is the root cause of the hesitancy. I, in my business, have been going department by department, having conversations with staff to find out exactly what is the issues and how we could resolve those issues. It's not that I'm mandating it. My business have certainly not mandated it. We are not saying that if you don't take it, you'll lose your job. There's nothing like that. But the issue here is we believe that if you're vaccinated, the risks that will come to us from, as Ruggles had indicated in our previous program, the liability risk, that the fact that businesses are charged with the responsibility of having a duty of care and expressing that duty of care to the environment in which you bring your workers and in which you bring your customers. So it is all of that from us, from a business point of view, that we have to take into consideration when we talk in vaccinations. It's not just about your right to take or not to take. It extends beyond that. How would you as a worker become more employable versus being vaccinated or not vaccinated? That is a question each person has to answer.
And that question is going to come up later on in the program with our special guest. Chris, staying on the business, here's the situation. The police reported last weekend, that's the Labor Day weekend, they reported that there were 83 accidents reported. 83. Now, that doesn't mean there were only 83 accidents, because a certain amount are settled between the parties. So that's what's reported. So assume it was significantly more than this. So we have a problem. Yeah, we have a problem. And our roads are not being extended. You know, we don't have new roads, meaning we don't have more miles of road. The mileage of roads we have is fixed, both in terms of length and breadth. And as we load more cars into it, it means that there's less, you're going to have traffic jams. I mean, it's automatic. It's like filling up a bag with marbles. At the time, there's no space in it, you know, if you keep loading it up. So it is an important source of revenue for the state. How do we regulate this? How do you bring it? How do we, I mean, what is sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, well, Byron, you're quite right about the capacity of our roads being able to take, and there must be a maximum at which that will exist, because we only have so much roads. Yeah. And you heard, I think the Prime Minister over the weekend was in a clip talking about the need to spend more money to repair the roads. There's a lot of roads in serious issues, things falling, cracking, whatever the issue is. And there's a need to spend money there to fix the roads and get them better motorable. But I mean, the reality of it, and the police, when you look at the police reports, they will tell you 90% of those accidents are either speeding or people driving under the influence.
They're avoidable.
Right, they're avoidable. And that is the issue. With the increased volume, is there a need for us to speed at the rate we're speeding and the kind of careless driving we're seeing as well? I mean, I drive, and I don't normally tell I'm a defensive driver, but I think I'm now a defensive driver. Because when you see some of the things, you have to stop and pull on the side to ensure that some of the, the kind of things that we see happening. And it's one of those things that we really need to focus on. Because for our little country, for over a weekend of May Day, where we had one holiday and the Saturday, it's like a normal weekend, just that the Saturday was a holiday, and you had 80-something incidents of traffic.
Chris, is the policy going far enough? So, for example, the government, I think it was last year, said, okay, you can only bring in vehicles, because there's an affordability here thing, you can only bring in vehicles that are over 10 years old. But the government relaxed on the policy because a lot of people didn't obey, so they end up with over 40, 50 cars on the port that are over 10 years old. So the government has decided, look, that's a reality, we have to extend it just to allow, but going forward, no more. But what's happening in the developed world because of the switch to renewable energies, that they're going to be dumping a lot of these gasoline and diesel vehicles here. It's going to be very cheap. But it's a kind of dumping. We don't have much recycling or any problem. We look along the roadsides. I mean, even this morning, I mean, there are garages along the roads there. If you buy a farm, you have to tell the police where you're going to keep it, how you're going to store it, where you're going to have it, or other things. You buy an automobile, which is a huge thing, and you park it anywhere along the roadside. You're traveling, and you can't pass because people park along the road permanently, or garages along the road permanently. Part of the problem, part of the issue. So where's the policy going? I mean, is it adequate in terms of...
I am of the view that the 10-year policy needs to be dropped to 5.
5. Trinidad is 5 years, by the way,
And that will help with that dumping thing that you were talking about. But I also believe that it needs to be augmented with the fact that most of us in the Caribbean are going into the issue, into environmentally friendly things, whether it's in transport or equipment, wherever it is. PV panels, the POC is doing a lot of things now to encourage the use of alternative sources of energy. And I think that the government needs to do like I think Barbados did it, that you need to transfer or get in your economy a certain amount of that. And you would not be allowing a certain type of vehicles to come in unless they're coming on the environmental side of things. You drop the duty so it becomes affordable as well. So that there's a number of things that need to be done in phases and in conjunction, because of course you're going to get a pushback where the ordinary person is going to tell you, so what, a vehicle is only for the privileged. And that becomes, politically and otherwise, the politicians have to manage that as well. So there is 2 sides to it, but as you rightfully say, the more we put capacity and strain the capacity on the roads, and with the level of driving that we have from our drivers, the issue becomes it's going to be more and more accidents, I think, and a lot of them are not fender benders. Some of them are serious. I think we had a fatality the other day with a gentleman, I think was in River Road or from Tempe that died. And the road fatalities are also increasing. So that is another reflection that is not a good one. And we have to manage it. So it's going to be, but I think a lot of it is attitude. Attitude. And how we drive.
The other dimension before we go to a short break is the question of, it's more of a policy, the government as I'm talking, that at what level, at what rates, although we see the duties are quite high, it's not a deterrent in terms of purchasing vehicles. But I think it's an interesting matter going forward, but I think you mentioned it, simply courtesy, will go a long way in terms of, and finally it's public transportation. If I'm able to leave home and get a bus, depend with a fixed time and get to Grandis Beach and come back, it's unlikely that I'll use my vehicle. So I think communication, public transport policy is going to be important, that everybody don't feel, hey, I need to own a car, or to use my car to go somewhere. So viewers, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll be talking to Miss Arlene Friday. She's the CEO of the Grenada Hotel and Tourism Association. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Get Vax. It's your best shot. Hello.
A message from the Ministry of Health.
The COVID-19 vaccine continues to be available throughout our Tri-Island state, and it's free of cost. Protect yourself and your loved ones, and let's get back to life. Visit covid19.gov.gd for answers to your questions. Visit your nearest health center to access the vaccine. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Hello Grenada, this is Jerry Alexis, Technical Director at the Grenada Football Association. I have been vaccinated. As we are the association about to roll football out again on the field, I encourage every player to get vaccinated so that we can quickly, speedily get back on the field doing what we love.
Tourism connects us all.
I took my best shot for the safety of my community. Get vaxxed, it's your best shot.
A message from the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back, viewers, and welcome to Perspectives. This morning, and as reported earlier, and Brenda is not with us today. Chris is here, of course, and we have a special guest with us. It's Arlene Friday. She's the CEO of the Grenada Hotel and Tourism Association. And welcome to Perspectives. We're pleased to have you. Hotel and Tourism Association. Well, of course, the pandemic, major blow to this sector, of course, and pandemic is still with us. But as the director, as the industry, as this sector begin to reopen or to return to some normalcy, quote unquote, what do you see as the challenges facing this sector?
Well, I'd like to say good morning. Good morning, Byron. Good morning, Senator. It's lovely to be here. And good morning, listeners and viewers.
Yeah.
Well, here, at the Grenada Hotel and Tourism Association, we have a myriad of businesses that I represent. And there are several various challenges that we're facing today in terms of trying to restore confidence in our sector, into travel and tourism, to get people to come back to Grenada, to view Grenada as safe in everyone's minds, to get on a plane, and to know that once they arrive, that they will remain safe. So the challenge that many businesses have today is just basically, how do we keep our staff safe? How do we keep our guests safe while ensuring that, okay, everyone's rights are protected? So businesses are challenged right now in terms of who basically mandates policy. As we all know, this has been the talk every single day. We would say that the government mandates policy. However, employers are very much liable if something happens in their environment. So, you know, for us, it's about health and safety, occupational health and safety, in terms of keeping the environment secure and safe, and also restoring the confidence of their clients. So as clients come in, you know, we want to ensure that, you know, that everyone is feeling okay, that once they are there at, let's say, their hotel accommodation or whatever, that they're at ease, that they are truly on vacation. And how do we do that?
There's, of course, two aspects to it. There is the employer and there's the employees. Of course, and the pandemic has been devastating for the employees as well as the employers. What is the approach to the ownership, the employers, in terms of the vaccine? Mandatory, voluntary. What is the general policy we have going forward with the association, with the membership on this question?
Well, right now it's still in discussion. You do have those members who definitely want to say, well, you know, the people that will be on the roster will be the people who are vaccinated. You know, in the first tier, they're the ones on the front lines. They're the ones that are at most risk. So your housekeepers, the people who are most interacting with your guests and everyone on the front lines, they are really, and I don't know if all the employees realize this, they are on the battle lines every single day that they work. And so we want to ensure their safety. So for some members, they do believe that, yes, it's important that the people that we put on the front lines are people who are vaccinated. And you have other members who believe, okay, let's continue to work with staff, let's continue to educate our staff, let's do as much as we can. However, we know that there is a timeline. There's a timeline that we can do this before we completely reopen Grenada. So hence the urgency in terms of getting people vaccinated, getting people educated, getting people prepared and equipped to handle the task that's at hand.
In some territories, I know they have applied an incentive, Chris, you know.
Yeah, it's been discussed here as well.
You've been discussed here as well?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's been discussed here as well. There have been approaches, and there are approaches being made now to incentivize people to be vaccinated, which we could come to a little later. But I wanted to go back to Arlene on the question of, and the whole issue of the balance of livelihoods with life. And throughout the entire pandemic, that has been an issue. How do we balance the two? None of us in the private sector, in the hotel sector, have any and have ever been in this situation and have experienced this situation. So, you know, as Board Patterson had said in our program the last time, we've opened to some degree.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, each person, whether you're employed in the tourism and hotel sector or anywhere else, has to weigh the consequences of being employable versus your life and what is going to happen and the risk involved. Now, from where I sit and from just commonsensical thinking, I would say, if there is a solution offered to you that will protect your life and give you an opportunity to regain your livelihood, I am of the view that you should think about that hard and make a decision. So here is a hotel and tourism sector saying that we want to get this sector back up. This sector accounts for 30% of our GDP. It employs thousands of people. You have indirect, you have people who in tours, people on the sites, people who vendors, farmers. I mean, the sector is so far-reaching for livelihoods. Now the question becomes, do we as individuals, and for Arlene and the sector, How, and I hear Arlene talk, she mentioned education twice,
Yeah.
and educating, and I think the responsibility, Roggers indicated that to us the other day, that the employer has to spend a lot of time now with the employees educating them
Correct.
on the
Correct.
risks, the pros, the cons, and getting them to accept that this is a possibility of a solution, understanding all the other things that may be in the background, and get them to understand that you become more employable. I keep saying this word. When you are vaccinated, or your health and risk profile doesn't send a risk to the whole organization and outside of the organization, because we were told last month about vicarious liability.
Yeah.
So, Arlene, the question to you is, how is the hoteliers? And I mean, each one have different levels of staff, each one have various levels of protocols. How is the Hotel Association trying to get the education to each member of staff to a point where they believe they could get, let's say, let's use herd immunity for a popular word,
Right.
70% of the staff up to a vax level that they could offer the services that the guests will expect?
Well, we're using multiple tactics. You know, we've hosted webinars. You know, when we first started the entire vaccination campaign, we were at the front of that, trying to get people in the hospitality sector vaccinated from the start. Tomorrow, for instance, I'm going down to a particular hotel to host an on-site forum, so we can just basically talk one-on-one. What are your questions? What are your concerns? These are things that we're trying to do. Different tactics. You know, I also have a meeting this afternoon. How can we incentivize people within our facilities to know, okay, well, hey, I've done what you've asked. These are different incentives. These are different tactics, motivational factors, because different things appeal to different people. You know, we have a young and youthful population. So we're going to start launching campaigns and initiatives and using people, youth in the community, to talk one-on-one, because I think people's concerns are valid. And I think we have to start from there, and we have to find a way to meet people part way. You know, I might listen to you, the next person might listen to me. And I think that's how people are. It's human nature. People don't want to be told necessarily what to do. They need to know the why. And everyone has to have a why. I had to have a why. You know, to say, why do I need to get vaccinated? Well, yes, because you know what? I want to choose Grenada. I want to choose basically the safety of my fellow citizens. I want to choose my job. And people have different reasons. And I think, you know, in terms of talking one-on-one to different people, I think that helps. There are certain hotels who have used, again, that tactic as well. Let me talk to each employer. Let me explain to them the risk and what they do every day when they put themselves, and not only do they put themselves at risk when they go to work, but then you go back home and you may be putting your mother at risk, your elderly relative at risk. And right now we have to remember, it's not just the vulnerable, right? Before we were told that it was the elderly person that we have to watch. We have to watch the grandmother. So when you go to work today and you go home, I have to watch my grandmother. Well, guess what? Now you have to watch yourself. And I think employees need to know that now you have 30-year-olds who are dying.
Yeah.
You have 30-year-olds. Yes, right in Trinidad, you have 30-year-olds who are dying without any underlying
It's no longer the elderly
health condition. It affects every single person and every employee. So what are we doing here at the GHTA? We're trying to let people know that, because I think people honestly don't know all the various factors. It's not just do this, do that because I told you so, but it's basically do this because it's the best for you.
Do you believe at some point it'd be mandatory, and do you believe the sector would be prepared to, if challenged, to represent itself in court or back? What is likely to be the end game here?
Well, I could just say where we are right now.
Yeah.
Where we are right now, what the conversation is in terms of which facilities remain a quarantine facility. What is the stats within your staff that are vaccinated? Because in order to be a quarantine accommodation site, you should be able to be as safe as possible, to accept people and be less of a risk to the nation. Also, in terms of the GTA is about to issue a new stamp, which will again certify which people within the hospitality sector have been 100% vaccinated. So then again, there's like
It's a marketing tool.
yeah, a marketing tool and also a ranking system to know, guess what? I want to be able to promote my business to say, guess what? When you come on my, in my business, you're safe. So I think that's really key. And especially we have to remember we're in a competitive business, right? When we look at ourselves compared to other islands and we are the lowest ranking island in terms of the vaccination uptake, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing when I talk to my fellow cohorts in other islands across the region, and they're asking, why is Grenada so low? Well, yes, again, I've heard it here on this program that yes, we're a victim of our own success. Yeah. And it's indeed the case.
Well, I was reading a thing over the weekend that the UK market, Grenada was hoping that they will become on the green list for the UK market, which said that the country was pretty safe and risks and so on. Yeah. But we didn't get it because of our level of vaccinations.
Exactly.
We were yellow or orange.
Yes, now we are amber. So amber. And what that means for us, okay, so many of us have been holding our breaths, saying, okay, Grenada is the safest place. We've been promoting Grenada as the safest place. However, guess what? Our vaccination rate is so low that now, when we're hoping that the UK would open up to us, because so many of our businesses depend on the UK market,
that's right.
Now we're listed as amber. And what that means is, as a traveler who's coming from the UK, if I have to go back to the UK, I have to be quarantined again. I have to have 2 additional PCR tests when I get back to the UK. So remember, I'm already taking the PCR test when I come to Grenada. How many of them? I have to go back and pay some more money. And how many people will travel knowing the amount of expense they have to put out to come to Grenada? How many people will travel when they think about how inconvenient it is to have a PCR test, which is already uncomfortable?
Very.
So when you think about that, and when you think about, yes, vaccination versus, our livelihood, and you see that we will possibly put many business out of work based on the low uptake.
This is so important as you listen to this, and I was thinking this through, that the relationship between the level of vaccination in the country, you're saying that the visitor, the potential visitor, looks at that because there's a cost factor.
Yes.
Country as a whole.
Country as a whole.
Yes.
And so that's one dimension. But Chris, you're talking about I think you rated at over 30% of GDP in terms of the tourism sector and the implications. So you look at the economy and livelihoods. I think it comes down to that. I think this is an important point. So vaccination is not, in other words, it's no longer a personal matter. It has implications if you take it or you don't take it.
Yeah, I mean, think about the ordinary taxi driver that picks up a guest at the hotel.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the guest coming in and the guest say, man, are you vaccinated? And the taxi driver say, no, I ain't taking you. The risk is just too high. Give me somebody that's vaccinated.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that,
Exactly.
It's as simple as that, because the guest who takes the risk to come in and say, listen, I am fully vaccinated, I'm coming, I want a safe environment because I'm vaccinated.
Yeah.
When it starts from the taxi person who is not vaccinated, how do you expect the guests who come in will want to spend their money?
Well, let's look at it to the other side, because some of the opponents of the vaccine are saying, well, look, I can still catch the virus if I take the vaccine.
Yeah, but the other side of that, the other side of that argument is that yes, you may catch it, but you will not get sick. You may not get sick to the point of you have to go to hospital and possibly die. Yes, there is when I like to put it in this context, it's like the flu. You can get a flu shot, and the flu shot will protect you for a certain while, but you can still catch the flu.
Yeah.
It's not that you cannot catch the flu. The issue is...
Now the virus is everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the issue is, how do you manage yourself in this situation where there's a particular disease going around? Do you expose yourself more? Or do you protect yourself to the point where even though I get it, I can be sick for a little while, but I could get back to work and I could get back doing my normal thing. And that is how it has to be looked at as well. Because if you don't have it, you don't have the vaccine, and you get sick, you may be down for months or weeks. If you have it, you may be down for a few days. So you can get back up into normalcy.
It's a question of how you balance that risk.
True. And then when you think about the US and the UK that have such a higher uptake than we do, and they have a better healthcare system. And here we are with available vaccines, many people not wanting to take it, but how many people want to go to the hospital? So again, it's like knowing that when you take the vaccine, you have a blanket, there's a layer of protection versus a full-on onslaught of getting, you know, the full-blown COVID-19.
And look, recently we had cruise tourism. Because when you read all the reports, cruise tourism is expected to become the slowest part of the industry to come back in full action. And you see now the cruise ships are now advertising for workers to come back. And that is a positive thing, but you have to be vaccinated.
Correct.
It's mandatory.
It is.
And if you're not vaccinated and you put on your application, they're going to look at you. Let's be realistic. They may not say it officially, but could you imagine you applying to go back to the cruise ship to work and you come up against Byron who is vaccinated and I am not vaccinated? Who do you think the employer is going to take first?
But it is mandatory. So they are asking people to get vaccinated. So can you imagine, as you were talking about employability, you know, if I have a choice to hire someone who's vaccinated versus someone non-vaccinated, and I want to keep my business and the community within my business safe, I will choose the person who's vaccinated. So you have hotels that will, yes, choose a supplier who has been vaccinated. You will have entertainers that you will choose who have been vaccinated. So, for instance, I want to entertain my guests. I will start thinking, okay, well, this pan player here, that person is vaccinated. I'm going to use that person over someone that may not be vaccinated, just out of safety.
So there are privileges in being vaccinated.
There are
Is that what you're saying?
Right.
There are privileges,
Yeah.
yes. There are motivational factors.
Motivational
now,
factors.
if I was not working, the first thing I'm thinking is like, okay, well, what are my chances if I want to get in the tourism industry? Well, you know what? Let me go get vaccinated. Let me think about that because, hey, I want to travel. Let me get vaccinated. While I have a choice and while there are options on the table, let me go and get vaccinated. There are different reasons for getting vaccinated, and I think they all make sense, you know, because right now, okay, you know, we have to think about what's going to happen moving forward. You know, eventually airlines will start requesting those who are vaccinated. As you know, there are places in the world that you have to, the only way you can get there is by taking, let's say, a malaria vaccine. Right, or, I'm sorry.
You have to visit certain African countries, you must take certain vaccines to get there.
Exactly.
I want to ask the question about airlift because as we look to open back up, SGU is coming back in September, August. What is the current situation with airlift now? I know we have, I think JetBlue comes in once a week, American Airlines.
JetBlue now is coming in daily. As of May 6th.
Right.
American Airline comes in twice a week, but they're hoping to come back daily in August. British Airways, we're hoping that they will return sometime in June. Again, we know what's going on again with the Amber system, and Virgin possibly sometime in July. So as we're starting to open up, and Air Canada possibly coming back on stream sometime mid-June. These are things that we have
positive.
We are looking positive.
You know, the question I was coming to there with that, you know, we had a little uproar the other day on the airport with the workers. And the workers, because the airport was juggling in who they need to lay off, who they need to rotate, and so on. And workers were really upset that, you know, they were going to be losing the possibility of pay and so on. And here we are now with an opportunity to get our workers at the airport authority fully working at normal shift, normalizing them because we'll have the airlift coming in and so on. And yet still, and it's a collective responsibility, Byron. This is a thing here. Hotels are trying to get their staff vaccinated. We as a country, still not on the green list, we're on amber. I think it's something that all of us, to be our brother's keeper.
Yes.
here I have my airport workers that I need because they have families and so on. Why don't I go and help the situation, get vaccinated and get Grenada to the point where we could see?
So, Chris, it's the misinformation that's out there.
Yeah.
The question is, you're not going to reduce your hesitancy if the information that's there is very damning. The information is there. How do we counter this information? What kind of campaign? What kind of how do we deal with this? Because and I saw this early, Chris. I'm talking about since before the vaccine started, that the level of hesitancy, particularly among our young population, is extremely high.
Well,
Extremely high.
I believe there's a multiple approach. I
Yes.
mentioned a lot of them. You have to be having conversations with your staff, and I like to use the businesses as a captured audience, where you can take department by department, have the conversations with them, understand the root cause for why they are hesitant in taking the vaccine, even though there's a need to bring in a medical person to talk or dispel some of the information they may have been filtered through, and get them to realize that this is something more positive than negative. And that is one. But Byron, we discussed that here, and I believe when we had the PRO from the promoters organization, and they were talking about how entertainers are struggling because they can't get work. The hotel sector is down, all the performers and so on. And I believe here we have an opportunity now. The hotel sector is trying to open back up with all the protocols. If I'm an entertainer, we had a young lady here as a singer and so on. I will be the first to get vaccinated. So when I come by your hotel, I say, "Here, man, look at my thing. I vaccinated. Take me."
So there's an incentive.
There's an incentive
There is
right
incentive.
there.
There is.
And then incentivize it further. If a promoter want to put on a fete somewhere, you could come in my fete, no problem. I give you a discount if you're vaccinated. We have to find ingenious ways.
I think we need also community ambassadors. People who they can relate with, right? People can relate with. So when you think about trying to combat the amount of misinformation that was out there about HIV/AIDS, it took multiple different approaches, in terms of tackling, what was out there and what was wrong and how to combat that. I think it's the same thing right now.
It is.
It's going to take a lot. It's going to take many non-governmental organizations getting involved, everyone doing their part. I think it's gonna be a different layered approach, to meet this, to mitigate the
My son
issues.
said to me, "Daddy, if you have a fit right now and you say the cost to come in is $40 or whatever, and this is what you're getting, and if you're vaccinated, you're going to have $10 off." You say, "Oh, see how much young people go and get vaccinated." As a young man telling me that.
It's true.
You understand? I tell you how they're thinking because they want their freedom to do a lot of things and to normalize as much as possible. All the rumors and the different bars and junction and all of these, they want to get back to some level of normalcy. And the thing is, listen, guys, show me you're vaccinated and you're good to go. Come, in restaurant dining, all of that. It's going to come to a point, and you're seeing it happen in various countries internationally. Israel and different. The US is opening back up now. You hear all the various states offering to open back up at certain percentage levels and so on. But a key part of it is the vaccination.
It is.
Right? The various states are saying, listen, we have certain percentage of the people vaccinated, now we can open up certain things in restaurant, dining, gyms, this, that. We could even have sporting activities to certain levels of capacity. So it is, we are showing in the world that if you get to the point of the vaccination level that we want, we could start normalizing.
Exactly. Can you imagine if cricket had to come back to the region? They want to go to an island that's been vaccinated. Right? So can you imagine a cricket match taking place right here at the stadium, and we only open it to vaccinated people? You understand? So then again, it will incentivize people to start.
Aline, there's another dimension of the sector, of course, that is implicated. That is the financial aspect of the sector. The fact that you've been down for over a year. What are those implications? And in particularly also, I mean, the carnival season, the holiday season is a big dimension to that. I mean, some persons are reluctant to talk about it, but I don't see how carnival is going to happen. In fact, there's probably isn't any official announcement, but it's quite obvious. And the implication to visitors. I mean, How is the sector, hotel and tourism sector, emerging out of this? How big is that challenge?
It's immense. It's an immense challenge right
Yeah.
now. I mean, you have Grenada, as compared to many other islands right now, are family owned. They're Grenadians, right? They're Grenadian owned hotels. So that means there's not any like outside money coming in. There's no big brand. There's no other monies coming to you. So people have been surviving more than a year without any money coming in. So people are cashed out, you know, and unfortunately, yes, we try to come up with different means to survive in terms of maybe hosting staycations and things like that here, you know, like having Grenadians and locals come to our hotels,
Yeah.
but again, it's not generating enough revenue. So many people are quite cash strapped right now, cash poor right now. You know, you have loans that you have to pay back. And it's quite scary, to be honest with you. I mean, I have many people, many of my members who are contacting me and saying, you know, the struggle is hard. We may have to close. We don't know how long our doors will be open. So can you imagine, we had a glimmer of hope, and the glimmer of hope was vaccination, right? Unfortunately, we see how low it's been, so the glimmer of hope is starting to fade. And this is what I have to deal with on a daily basis, how to come up with different strategies, how to keep people a little bit upbeat when there's, you know, the glimmer is starting to fade, right? It's starting to fade, and I don't know if many people realize when they think of hotels, they think of big money, big bucks, big, you know, big fancy cars, but remember, these are Grenadian-owned businesses that have been struggling for more than a year without, they're also, forget just the hotels, other parts of the sector. So you have vendors, you have tour operators, you know, you have so many people who have been struggling that, you know, to be honest with you, I have to spend time with them daily on the phone. And sometimes, you know, you don't know how to encourage, because it is really, really taxing for many of these businesses who are, you know, dealing with bills on a day. They're not going anywhere. Your overhead isn't going anywhere. So that is the challenge,
you know,
right now.
Hoteliers are in a vice. You close the hotel, your costs still keep coming.
Exactly.
Because you have fixed costs with your aircon units, your pools, your utilities, security. You don't close, and you have minimal staff, you still have costs.
Exactly.
And as Arlene have been saying, where is the cash coming in? Most hoteliers will tell you they have taken massive salary cuts and keeping their staff, you know, the key ones, because that's the other thing.
Yeah.
If I lose my staff who have spent millions of dollars and years training to get them up to that level, and I lose them and I can't get them when things try to come back, that's another cost for me again. I have to start to retreat. So they're in a real difficult situation and vice grip, and that is why I say we have to be our brother's keeper, and we have to vaccinate and get to understand that this thing affects everybody. But I want to ask you a question on Airbnb, because Airbnb is not normally within the GHT in terms of membership. How is your sector and how is the government planning to ensure that Airbnb has a certain level of protocols in place that could ensure that the sector itself, the tourism sector, remains competitive and safe?
Well, again, you know, we're going after the Airbnb market as well, you know, in terms of licensing, in terms of registering them to know who they are, being aware of who they are. And in order to be compliant, they have to go through a list of our protocols. So in terms of infection control trainings and things like that of that nature. And again, as these stamps come into play, you know, that's how we ensure who's ranked where. Can we send someone to this particular facility? Have they gone through training? Have they gone through public education training? And have they basically been certified? Because, you know, Airbnb is a challenge from where I sit, Arlene, because, you know, Byron has his home, he has an apartment, Byron has a farm, he has oranges, he could show from farm to table, and he could attract an Airbnb person and say, come and stay a week by me, this is my rates, and so on. It is even more critical for Byron
and his family to be vaccinated.
It is. It is definitely
Even
key.
though I'm not licensed by you, because you know you will have that.
Exactly.
But the responsibility, because when you advertise on social media that I'm an Airbnb and you want to attract people, you have to put something there to give them some degree of level of safety.
Yeah, you do. And again, this is where the stamps, if I'm a traveler, I'm going to look for a facility that has been certified. First of all, coming to Grenada, you can only stay at particular quarantine accommodation sites.
Yeah.
So, you know, at least that person goes through that level of safety in terms of being cleared and medically cleared before they enter the community. So we have that layer. But again, more and more public education is needed to get to the far corners of the community in terms of Airbnbs as well.
Yeah, because I mean, again, in the Airbnb situation, if you have 3 properties in Riverside, for example, and you know those guys do not cook on the road, that's what the Airbnb people come to see and interact with the community.
Correct.
And have a all along on the side of the road, chat with the guys. That's what it's about. So again, I keep saying, if we want to normalize as a country and get these things back up, we need to go to get vaccinated.
Correct.
You can't stop in Riverside and decide them fellas having oil long and there may be a potential non-vaccinated and you feel
it's true.
Yeah.
You can't see this thing, you know, it's invisible, you know, that's
I say that
problem.
to bring it down to the very little level that everybody needs.
And it has to be grassroots, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's the little man, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically, again, I was talking about community ambassadors. It's like each one teach one, each one reach one. That's exactly what we have to do here. So it's like, okay, I will challenge both of you.
Yeah.
Who are we bringing this week to go get vaccinated?
Yeah.
And who am I talking to this week to
Good.
get vaccinated?
I like that approach, by the way. You know, Ali, it sounds good. Well, yeah, it's practical. You know, I have a responsibility to get one person with me to be vaccinated this week. I'm going to take that challenge, Ali. We quickly running out of time. What's your final message?
My final message is to choose you. Choose Grenada. Choose to get vaccinated. Get informed. There's information out there. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us here at the GHTA as well. info@ghta.org. We can come set up a forum with you, talk to you, help answer some questions, even in layman's terms. Sometimes you don't want to talk to a doctor. Sometimes you just want to talk to someone and just say, hey, these are my reasons. We're here to listen. We're here to answer valid concerns. And that's what we're here for.
Arlene Friday, thank you very much. Arlene Friday is the CEO of the Grenada Hotel and Tourism Hotel Association. Thank you very much. Chris, we didn't mention at the beginning of this program, you know, yesterday was Mother's Day.
Yeah.
We have to wish all the mothers of Grenada, of the world, Grenada in particular, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I celebrated yesterday. I mean, it wasn't Wives' Day, it was Mother's Day. So the children had to take care of their moms. But yes, it was a good day, and it's always a good thing to recognize our mothers. I mean, they will tell you that it's not a day, it's a lifetime.
It's a lifetime.
And
you
we
know.
must be recognizing them all the time.
Yeah.
But probably we could give them the challenge.
Yes.
Which mother is getting somebody vaccinated today?
Okay,
and they're going to get vaccinated,
okay.
You know, as a gift for themselves and their friends and their neighbors. So I think it was a good thing, and you know, we always have to recognize them.
Yeah, our mothers, you know, and a big dimension of it, Chris, we have a high percentage of single-headed household mothers, you know, as much as 45% the number. So just big up all the mothers of Grenada and continue. We love you. And colleagues, we're out of time. Let me recognize our production team, Perspectives, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Have a good week.